Hello everyone. I'm sorry that I couldn't attend the presentations today. It is due to the traveling that I had to make. Without further ado, to cut directly to the chase of the presentation. This Virus is a third-person action-adventure game set into the not-so-distant future. The player controls Charlie, a psychic possessing superhuman powers, which leads us to the core mechanics of the game. They are built around the new features of the PlayStation 4 controller, mainly referring to the touchpad and the built-in speaker. Those new possibilities will offer new ways in how the players can interact with the environment and the obstacles around them. The game will feature combat and puzzle areas segmented in the same manner as the Prince of Persia game, for example. The main mechanics. Combat areas will require stealth as enemies are superior to the player. It is important to note that the stealth is purely based on vision and not on light. In order to overcome the enemies, the player has to utilize the power of his characters. He can tag objects in the environment by pointing and using the trigger button. Objects that are tagged can be manipulated by scale, rotation, or can be hurled at the direction of the crosshair. This interaction is performed on the touchpad. For example, swipe forward on the touchpad sends the tagged objects at the direction of the enemies. The other two interactions, the scaling and the rotation, I will come back in a bit, where I give a small mock-up, but for now I want to talk about the other power of Charlie, and that is his ability to hear elements such as water, air, and sound waves. This is particularly used in the puzzle areas of the game, and is done by using the controller's built-in speaker and the line coming out of the front of the controller. I know this sounds a bit vague at this point, so let's get directly to the mock-up to flesh up how the mechanics can be utilized by the player. In the combat area scenario, the player enters a large statue factory used for propaganda purposes. The place is crawling with guards supervising and guarding the goods that are produced. The environment is filled with heavy machinery. Pots of searing liquids are poured in big vessels and conveyors are carrying the finished parts of the statues. The player infiltrates to the back unseen, with the goal to power off the factory. He tags one of the hanging metal platforms and rotates it by swiping the touchpad. He proceeds to do the same with one of the axes holding the pots, resulting in a spill of searing liquid over the guards beneath. Two of the guards spot the player, who immediately tags two of the pieces on the conveyor and performs a swiping motion on the screen as the pieces rip through the guards, which results in the player being able to safely proceed with his deeds. In the puzzle area example, the player enters a room with extremely large ceiling and concrete walls. He doesn't acknowledge the security laser at his feet. The door shuts locks behind him as alarm sounds are being produced. There is no way out, but water flow sounds are coming out of one side of the room, thus from the controller. The player turns towards as the lights from the controller shines brighter. He notices a wall panel which is lightly cracked and seems weakened. The player also notices a small chunk of concrete in a shaft at the very top of the room. The player then proceeds to tag the concrete block and scales it with a corresponding movement on the touchpad. He aims at the wall crack, slams it as gushing water is bursting from the place of impact. Quickly the room starts filling with water, which elevates him to the shaft as the player escapes. The mechanic of rotation, scaling, and propelling an object, in combination with the concept of elements and sounds, could potentially create an enormous amount of puzzles and encounters. In order to support gameplay, visuals need to convey a large chunk of information, mainly referring to objects which can be manipulated by the player. That is why visuals such as the one seen in Mirror's Edge, for example, where objects are clearly color-coded, would be ideal for this game. The near future setting suggests pollution and dark atmosphere, and the mood board represents my vision of the world. Another plus to this is the fact that the majority of the artists in the team are already working on such setting in their world building classes. There is potential for reusability of their work. In terms of narrative, the world has shifted from the democratic model of ruling to a much darker corporate future, where resources are scarce. I won't delve into it, so I will conclude that it will be mainly conveyed through PDAs, which are placed around the world. Another thing which I'm very excited about this concept is a software called iPieSoft, which is markerless motion capture tool. With two connects and a large enough space, we can record motion captured animation which are translated on a skeletal rig. They can be then re-exported to Maya and reskinned to our characters. I believe it hasn't been done before in GameLab and will take huge pressure off the team while delivering high quality product. Under technology, I want to place the main risk for the feasibility for this game, and that is the engine. As it stands, there is zero information about it on the internet, so I have no clue how realistic is such concept, be that mechanics are fairly simple. This can be better assessed once the programming department takes a closer look at the engine. As a conclusion, this is a concept which is highly versatile and easily reworkable, if the initial few weeks show that the scope is too big for us. The game can be easily changed from 3D to 2.5D perspective without sacrificing too much, and same stands for the combat areas that can be removed. This will transform the game into more of a puzzle platformer. With that, I want to conclude the presentation and thank you very much for the attention. I hope you enjoyed it.